Breaking. Jim Jones' kid has formally downed him and thrown him out like a stranger. You won't believe what just happened. But wait a minute. According to sources citing complete chaos, Jim apparently did the unthinkable by touching Chrissy. And let's just say that what transpired next wasn't beautiful. Didn't simply sit there and take it. Oh no, she lost it. And Jim's own flesh and blood turned against him before he could even comprehend what had happened. Here's where it gets even stranger. Some people in the streets are reclaiming that this brawl wasn't spontaneous, but rather was prearranged. There have been reports that Jim's son had been waiting for an excuse to fire his father. But was there a covert plot or betrayal involved? By the time you learn what actually transpired, you will realize that there is something even more sinister going on behind the scenes. This is not merely family drama, it is a complete betrayal. You will never again view Jim Jones in the same manner. Pay attention because things are going to get dirty. Alright, hold on to your seats, because this isn't merely Jim Jones. A self-described Harlem legend and rapper, reality TV star, has now hit rock. This is just another rapper drama bottom. And no, we're not referring to album sales. Although, let's face it, those aren't exactly soaring either, but rather a full-fledged real life. After 2010, a domestic tragedy occurred more quickly than Jim's career. So, let's take a moment to recap what happened in order to completely comprehend this. For those of you who need a refresher, Jim Jones and Chrissy's love tale was based on red signals before the nuclear meltdown. The two have been unfaithful during their more than 20 years of dating, which in the world of rap is almost a life sentence. They remained together despite rumors of violent altercations, uncomfortable reality TV proposals. And Chrissy even proposed to Jim first, since she seemed to be waiting for him. It was taking much too long for Jim to man up, and when he finally did, he hesitated and fumbled more frantically than a SoundCloud rapper's first live performance. After a few years, things were still not going well. Jim refused to commit. Chrissy became quite irritated, and the fans were just relaxing, snacking on popcorn while anticipating the impending catastrophe. And boy, did it come. The night of everything went to hell. Take a look. Chrissy and Jim are in their home late at night because yes, they still live together despite all of their problems. It's a touch toxic and there may be a lot of drama. Nobody is certain what exactly started the disagreement, but based on our sources, by which we mean internet users who enjoy, Chrissy was going off, and properly so. So, she spent years speculating that it had something to do with money, infidelity, and Jim's failure to act like an adult man. Instead of expressing regret, he rode for this man, supporting him and sticking by him, even when he pretended he didn't know how to spell loyalty. And Jim, he didn't simply storm out and slam the door, but Jim went too far and smacked Chrissy instead of apologizing or acting like a yes, you read correctly. Jim Jones, who can stand like claims to be all about love and respect, touched Chrissy in his own home. And when Jim Jones realized he had made a mistake, his son was standing directly in front of witnesses. Jim was completely mistaken if he believed he could simply go after that because the room became silent as soon as his palm touched Chrissy's face. The furniture was asking, "Bro, what did you just do?" And Jim's son was listening to everything. But let me tell you something. He wasn't. Jim had no time to respond when his own flesh and blood intervened. His kid, who, let's face it, has likely had enough of his He squared up and stared his father in the eye, saying, "No, you're not about to do this." In response to his father's absurdity over the years. Then suddenly, Jim Jones just caught hands. Yes, his own kid delivered the opening blow. Was it a fair fight? No, it wasn't. As Jim wasn't prepared, despite his bluster, Jim was given a harsh reality check for this degree of instant karma by his son, who is younger, faster, and likely attends the gym more frequently than his father. Chrissy most likely began seeing the credits roll on his own life as punches were thrown, furniture was knocked over, and at one point, he had to literally back off because Jim Jones was expelled from his own home. In a surprising turn of events, after he eventually realized he had messed up in the midst of everything. But hold on, because Jim's situation only gets worse after being completely destroyed by his own son. He tried to act as though nothing had occurred. "So you all need to relax," remarked, wiping his injured lip. But his son wasn't finished, since, after all, the rudeness and nonsense, there was only one more thing to do. Jim Jones, the rapper and reality TV star, was evicted from his own home. His kid pointed to the door and said, "Go now." Chrissy simply crossed her arms and nodded, saying, "You're not welcome here." Jim was still in disbelief after everything that had happened, simply happened. So, he had to gather his belongings and leave. He was gone in an instant, but where did he go? And how did the internet respond to that? Jim Jones was evicted from his own home by his own son following this complete circus of a controversy. And I assure you that you are not prepared for the fallout. Slapping Chrissy was a crazy, unanticipated, and wholly self-inflicted collapse. But if you thought the drama was over, you're mistaken when I tell you that in 2025, being exposed in your own house is one thing, but being exposed online is a completely different level of destruction. Social media did not hold back. In fact, they humiliated Jim Jones by attacking him as though he were the ultimate supervisor of poor choices. As soon as the news came, #Jim Jones began trending on Twitter or X, whatever we're calling it today. And the memes, oh, they were vicious. One user captioned a picture of Jim Jones before and after his son knocked him saying that Jim Jones believed he was another, went even further and posted a photoshopped picture of Jim walking down the street with his bags packed. After his son dipped him out of the house, someone discovered vintage love and hip-hop videos of Jim Jones searching for a new place to stay. And the jokes didn't end there. Chrissy has been attempting to leave this man for 20 years, even though his own kid is over him. Chrissy is accusing JY of being immature and not committing to writing. However, the worst one was when someone changed Jim's personal life page on Wikipedia, adding that he was a former rapper and currently couch surfs enthusiast. And as if that weren't enough, they made him unemployed. The contempt was immense, but to be honest, it didn't stop. Simply memes as the internet becomes a full-fledged investigative team when anything this bizarre occurs. And believe me, they began. If there's one thing about social media, it's that people have receipts. And as soon as Jim was revealed, the past comes back to hunt him. People began bringing up every troublesome thing Chrissy had ever done for laying his hands on him. They started by looking into his past. Clips of Jim dismissing Chrissy's worries, making jokes about her and treating her disrespectfully from previous love and hip-hop shows reappeared. As an afterthought, they next targeted his music career. According to a widely shared tweet, Jim Jones is really damaging his personal life, as if he hadn't already done so. Destroy his rap career and another one like being ejected by your son. Your last single was brutal in 2006. But things went a bad turn. Because people began demanding actual consequences instead of simply jokes and memes. And as a result, companies and brands began severing their connections. Now, let's where Jim's predicament moved from humiliating to financially ruinous. Even though he was no longer at the top of the charts, he still had business deals. He was able to stay afloat by partnerships and brand sponsorships. But as soon as the internet turned against him, those agreements quickly vanished, starting with his clothes. With immediate effect, the company Vamp Life issued a vague, but revealing statement. At Vamp Life, we do not condone violence or abuse of any kind. Reassessing our connection with Jim Jones. Translation: after they left, things deteriorated, further affecting one of his largest partnerships. His cannabis brand. Given the recent developments, investment declared that they were eliminating his name from their products. As a result, we are making the necessary adjustments to our brand image. That's business jargon for we don't want this guy's drama to mess with our money. And Jim was supposed to make an appearance at a significant hip-hop festival later. Guess what? They fired him this year. A spokeswoman issued a brief statement stating that Jim Jones will no longer be a part of our team due to unanticipated circumstances. Jim's career wasn't just faltering at this time, it was on the verge of collapse. The man was seen on tape being ejected from his own home life support. And during this time, Jim Jones was unable to be seen. Where did he go? This is what happens when rappers become involved in scandals. They typically either step up and defend themselves by posting angry posts, threatening legal action, and attempting to cleanse their name, or they Jim, who opted for option 2 after being evicted from his own home, vanished from social media, avoided the media, and hoped that people would just move on. His complete silence, no Instagram postings, tweets, interviews, or anything else, led to the major query: where the hell did Jim Jones go? According to some reports, internet detectives with too much spare time suggested that he returned to his mother's home, while others said he was staying with a buddy in New Jersey. And if that's the case, the internet had a field day. One person tweeted that Jim Jones actually went from Dipset to Monset, and another person posted it again. When he asked his mother whether he could sleep on the couch, she responded by asking Chrissy. At this point, Jim was being roasted from all sides. And while he was in after days of conjecture, Chrissy eventually breaks her silence and admits that she didn't do anything to hide the individuals closest to him from speaking out a big interview. She just went live on Instagram, poured herself a glass of wine, and said, "I told y'all," and that was it. She didn't compose a lengthy Instagram post. There were no tears or lengthy explanations, just unadulterated energy, and to be honest, the internet adored it. One admirer wrote that Chrissy had been attempting to alert us about Jim. Years have passed since we should have seen another article about Chrissy appearing happier than ever and Jim being homeless. Karma is real, and Jim's son was also keeping quiet, but he did share a single item on his Instagram account with the straightforward message: had to manage business. No regrets, no apologies. Simply put, I fulfilled my obligations. Which leads us to the crucial question of what will happen to Jim Jones, who is currently likely homeless and jobless. Terminated by the internet. But does he have a strategy to solve this? Or is this Jim Jones's official demise? Trust me, this isn't the end of the story yet. Jim Jones had reached his lowest point after his son had rejected him. Chrissy was having the time of her life, and the internet had pulled him for filth. His business dealings had gone his way. Bookings for the festival were cancelled. And worst of all, he made no public pronouncements, did no damage control or anything else. But if there's one thing we know about after being revealed, superstars constantly seek to make a return. Some are successful, but Jim Jones, he failed spectacularly. Let's examine how his attempt at, after 2 weeks of total stillness, Jim finally made his appearance. But his first move, the poorest apology ever, turned redemption into an even greater and what he did was publish an apology on the Notes APO, the quintessential lazy celebrity move, and include a hazy screenshot of some text with a black background and tagged it saying that everyone makes errors. I'm taking some time to think back and grow, and I hope you all do the same. Sir, you were expelled from your own home and the internet. They weren't purchasing it. One user commented, Jim, while using the freeway in the McDonald's parking lot. Another user apologized for not using the Notes app without mentioning Chrissy or a son. He sat down since Chrissy didn't accept his apology reply. His son disregarded him and his detractors went in. Some even created a phony petition with the headline, "Keep Jim Jones out of the house." Yes, a complete petition was started in 2024. And guess what? It received 50,000 signatures. This was terrible. But Jim wasn't prepared to give up on the YouTube catastrophe that he attempts to share. Jim chose to take charge of the story after his apology backfired. He declared he would be having an exclusive interview on YouTube. And let me tell you, Jim sat down looking worn out and tried to explain what had happened. But everyone was misunderstood. I adore my family, but social media blew everything out of proportion. Dude, you were evicted from your own home, beaten by your kid, and lost half of your money. The comments section was nasty. One person said, "This man is trying to gaslight the entire internet." Another person remarked, "Bro, you didn't. Your career." In 2 days, Jim was caught making a mistake. And the worst part was that someone stated that he received more excuses than popular tunes. At this moment, the interview was done, ratioed more hates than likes. And rather of repairing his reputation, he made it worse. Nevertheless, Jim believed he could make the podcast better. Jim Jones loses his temper following the YouTube fiasco. This time he attempted to explain himself on a hip-hop podcast. But instead of making amends, the host asked him a straightforward question. "Jim, do you regret how you treated Chrissy all these years?" And Jim lost it. "You guys always want to bring up the past. I haven't done anything to make nasty people think I'm the worst person here. Oh, it was awful." His voice wasn't steady, and it was obvious that he was upset. At one point, he even remarked, "You guys are acting like I'm some villain while these other rappers out here are doing worse." Sir, the longer he talked, the worse it got. An admission of guilt rather than a defense. And when the podcast footage was released online, it went popular for all the wrong reasons. One TikTok user shared it with the caption, "Bro fighting for his life in this interview," read, "Jim Jones trying to dodge accountability like he dodged a long-term commitment and failing." At this point, Jim ought to have given up, but instead, he made one final attempt in the height of his desperation to win Chrissy back with his career. And in a final desperate attempt to make things right, Jim tried to win Chrissy back. How could he do this with such a lovely gesture? Jim arrived at Chrissy's house with gifts, flowers, and a handwritten card. To her surprise, Chrissy didn't even open the door. Instead, she shared a photo of the internet, liked it when someone tweeted Chrissy throwing away the flowers. Like Jim, along with the trash with the message "Too little too late," squandered away 20 years of her time, because someone else penned the letter but the handwritten one appeared to be from a 9-second R&B music video. At this point, Jim's career was officially underway. His relationship ended, his reputation was ruined, and after weeks of public scrutiny, Jim Jones vanished. Where is Jim? Jones, now humiliation. Jim disappeared. There were no more interviews or tweets, and people began joking about his whereabouts. One individual asked if Jim Jones had been sighted. Jim witnessed protection from his own career, according to someone working security at Chrissy's new home. But in reality, Jim quit the music business entirely. Chrissy moved on and began seeing a young real estate investor and entrepreneur after he stopped charting his brand transactions and never returned. Man who, based on reports, truly understands how to treat her fairly. And Jim was attempting to launch a podcast, which he obviously is. But Jim believed he was taking a woman for granted. But the internet holds you responsible. Let's face it, who is watching this? My friends. When it turned out that he wasn't untouchable, we ended the year's most outrageous collapse. What do you think? Did Jim deserve this? Or did the internet go too far? Let's talk in the comments. Bellawand, remember to like and subscribe so that we can continue to provide you with more in-depth analyses, like this one. Stop everything, because this may be the most outrageous celebrity breakdown of the year. It has a famed rapper, an enraged son, and a loud slap. It has been widely reported online, ladies and gentlemen, that Jim Jones has officially lost it. Now, picture yourself in your own feeling elated and powerful at home. You get into an argument because you're untouchable. Dispute with your lifelong partner. Things become nasty with Chrissy Lampkin's voice. Get up, and then you do the you slap her, which is inconceivable. But guess what? You overlooked one small element. Son is watching from right there. He didn't take it well, to put it mildly. Please let me know what happens next. Oh, just a full-fledged family conflict with a son taking charge of father receiving his own treatment. His own treatment. Charge of father receiving his own treatment. His own treatment.